Welcome to Unmasking the Gods, where we explore the celestial clockwork hidden behind our most sacred stories. Today, we're looking at the sky not as a kingdom, but as a map. One that might explain why so many sons of God share the exact same story, the same miracles, and the same birthday. The sun didn't just rise over the valley, it bled across the horizon, staining the mist in shades of bruised purple and gold. Silas stood at the edge of the overlook, the wind tugging at the frayed edges of his cloak like a persistent ghost. He remembered a time when these fields were green, pulsing with the rhythmic hum of the harvest, but now the earth lay silent, tucked under a blanket of silver ash. Every breath he took tasted of copper and old wood smoke, a reminder that the world he knew had drifted away while he was busy looking for reasons to stay. The mountains in the distance, once jagged and proud, now looked like the worn teeth of a dying animal, crumbling under the weight of a sky that had forgotten how to reign. He shifted the weight of the heavy iron key in his pocket, its jagged teeth pressing against his thigh through the thin fabric of his trousers. It was a cold, archaic thing, forged in a time before the great fires, and it felt heavier with every step he took toward the ruins of the library. The silence here was heavy, almost physical, pressing against his eardrums until he could hear the frantic drumming of his own heart. He wasn't just walking through a graveyard of stone. He was walking through the skeletal remains of human knowledge, where the secrets of the before were buried. Each footfall sent up a small cloud of gray dust, a fine powder that coated his boots and turned his tracks into ghostly imprints on the dead earth. As he reached the massive, scorched doors of the central rotunda, he hesitated. The grand arches now looked like the gaping maw of a prehistoric beast. He thought of the stories his grandfather used to whisper by the hearth, tales of lights that never flickered and voices that traveled across the air without wires. It sounded like magic to Silas, a cruel sort of magic that had vanished just when the world needed it most. He reached out, his fingers trembling as they brushed the soot-stained carvings, feeling the faint, lingering vibration of a power that refused to fully die. As if the stones themselves were still trying to whisper the truths they had been built to protect. The air grew colder as he stood in the shadow of the threshold, the temperature dropping as if the building were exhaling the frost of 1,000 winters. Silas pulled his cloak tighter, feeling the isolation of the valley settle into his bones. There was no birdsong here, no rustle of leaves, only the low, mournful whistle of the wind moving through the cracked ribs of the ceiling high above. He looked back at the horizon, where the sun was now a pale, watery eye struggling to shine through thick, dark smog. The world outside was dying of thirst and ignorance, and he was the only one left who believed that the cure was hidden in a place of paper and ink. With a deep, steadying breath that burned his lungs, he slotted the key into the lock. The metal was frozen, resisting him at first. But with a sharp twist of his wrist, the tumblers gave way. The sound was a thunderclap in the stillness, a definitive, mechanical click. The doors didn't creak. They groaned, swinging inward with a slow, agonizing dignity to reveal a darkness so thick it swallowed the morning light whole. It was a darkness that smelled of ancient dust, ozone, and something else, something sweet and metallic like the blood of a machine. Silas stepped over the threshold, the soles of his boots crunching on shattered glass and the brittle remains of light bulbs that had gone dark a century ago. He didn't know what he would find in the shadows, whether it was the mechanical salvation of his people or just another ghost waiting to be laid to rest. But as the heavy doors began to drift shut behind him, pulled by some unseen counterweight or perhaps the sheer gravity of history, he didn't reach out to stop them. The story of the end had already been written in the stars and the soil. He was simply here to see if there was enough ink left for a final sequel. He clicked on his lantern, the small flame flickering bravely against the abyss, and began his descent into the belly of the past. The flame of the lantern cast long, dancing shadows against the rows of empty shelves, each one a rib in the carcass of a forgotten civilization. Silas moved deeper, his breath hitching as the silence of the library began to speak in the creaks of stone and the phantom rustle of pages. He wasn't just searching for books, he was searching for the heartbeat of a world that had flatlined. As he reached the final stairwell, the light caught a glint of brass. He placed his hand upon it, and for the first time in an age, the darkness didn't feel like a grave, but like a womb. The sequel had begun. The next time you hold a piece of bread or walk through a field of tall grass, remember, you are looking at the original face of the divine. That grain didn't grow because of a miracle in a book. It grew because the sun died and was reborn to feed the earth. Don't just look up for your salvation, look down. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the soil. If you're ready to peel back more layers of the ancient world, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. Let's keep unmasking the gods and the truth together.